Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. Created by speakers for speakers. It's your fast track to sharper skills, bigger impact, and a smarter speaking business. Subscribe and download using the link below. And step into the spotlight.
Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. My name is Tom Singer, and I am one of your 4 rotational hosts this year for the podcast. And on every single show, we try to teach you how to be a better speaker or build a better business. And today, our guest is Sharon Gai, and that's Gai like AI. She is an AI expert, and today we're going to delve into how do you as a speaker use AI to make sure that your business is growing and thriving. Hey, Sharon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tom. Thanks so much for having me.
So there's a lot of people out there in the speaker world who call themselves AI experts who really only learned how to turn on a computer about 6 weeks ago. However, in prepping to be with you today, I looked up, you have kind of a very interesting tech background in the world of technology and AI. Tell us a little bit about your background before you became a full-time speaker just 3 years ago.
Sure. So my old, I guess in the very beginnings, I always say I started sort of out with the hardware stack. So my first job out of college was helping CIOs build out their data centers. And that back in the day, that was pre-cloud day. So AWS wasn't even invented yet. Azure was not invented yet. And CTOs and CIOs would literally buy up physical large pieces of servers and networking equipment and storage, rent out the basement or rent a basement from somewhere or find a co-location and stack up servers and build up their own data centers. That's what the cloud looked like back in the day, or that's what infrastructure looked like back in the day. Fast forward many years, I say I went up the application stack. So I joined a company called Alibaba, and went into the e-commerce side of things. So the really sort of digital and marketing world, helping brands sell better online or navigate things online. And I was working in China. So I always tell the story of one fine, cool evening in the city of Hangzhou on November 10th, 2017, where I am project managing this big campaign called Double 11. And Double 11 sort of like a Black Friday. It's a frenzy. Everything's on sale. Everybody's very busy. A lot of brands sell a lot of stuff during that time. And I was pulled into the office at 10 p.m. at night, and I was shown this software tool. It was this tool where there's a portal, and you type in a couple of words, and you say, "I'm selling." Mugs, and this is my brand. Create me these banners that I can use for my site. So we type this in, and out pops hundreds of iterations of these banners with this mug, with different backgrounds, different lighting, different models holding the mugs. So now this tool or this sort of mechanism isn't quite new anymore. You can go to ChatGPT, image generator, the mid journeys of the world. There's so many different tools that help brands or anybody that deals with any sort of banners create these images. So now it's not that novel, but in 2017, it was very novel.
Sure, that was
And
sort of head of the curve. Did it seem like wizardry? I mean, I remember the first time I used ChatGPT, I was like, whoa.
right, that emoji where it's like the mind blown, like that's what that's what was going on in my head. That was a moment because prior to that, we sort of had an assembly line of people putting together those images. We hired a lot of copywriters, designers, marketers, and it touched a lot of hands before it went into production. So that was the night that we knew in our team that things were going to change. And then fast forward some years, the whole world sees ChatGPT, the whole world sees generative AI tools, and now we have sort of the tsunami that we're having where AI is shaking up different industries and also speaking
Yeah.
businesses.
So you, like I said, you have been involved with this from the early days. When we think of speakers, what are 2 tips that you have for speakers about how they can utilize AI in order to grow their businesses and thrive?
Yeah. So number one is definitely how do you use AI to improve your efficiency just operationally as a business? As speakers, we're not only do we have to appear in person, not only do we have to make sure the flights are right, not only do the contracts are right. What do we do if a client isn't paying you? And then all of the marketing materials for the websites and the content. It's a very complicated business. It could also be a very simple business. It just depends on how you look at it. That's sort of first tip. Second is I think as speakers, we're constantly tested. Is your information relevant? Like, why should somebody pay attention to you? Why should a room full of hundreds of thousands of people listen to stories that are current, are relevant to today? Because I think, there's a lot of things that we might do because it's worked, it's gotten us to where we are today. We're repeating a lot of things that used to work 10 years ago, but maybe is kind of getting a little um, old by now. So how do we stay current? So the second big tip is how do we use AI to pressure test our ideas and content?
Nice. Well, we're going to have some fun unpacking those tips. But first, let's start at sort of the big picture. How is AI really affecting business? We'll dive down to speaking business, but what is happening in the world of business because of AI?
Yeah, so I just recently published my book. I wonder if I can pull it out right now. Um,
How to
so
do
I ju-
more with
with
less.
less
I love it. I took a look at it
future
online. I took a look at it online before the interview. It looks like a fantastic book.
future proofing yourself in a German economy. Yeah, and you might have been wondering why there's a bee on the cover. And what is the relevance of bees and AI? Because it seems like two far-fetched things, two very disparate things. And so my philosophy with how AI is run in our, whether it's in our lives or at our work, is that pre-2022, and 2022 is sort of that magical year. We have the BC years and the AD years, and that 0 year was, important in another stream of thought. In sort of my world, it's 2022. There's pre-2022 and post-2022. So pre-2022, we went about our work like busy bees. We opened our laptops Monday mornings, read through our emails, went through our to-dos, looked at last week's leftover to-dos, combined them, and then started executing things one by one. And a lot of those things, if you are a speaker and you work for yourself or by yourself, you are the one that's executing each of those tasks. And sometimes, if you're getting busy, that could be an exploding list of to-dos. And then there's, I think, post 2022, we can approach our work like what I call beekeepers. And that's really a mindset where you are the beekeeper. So you are the sort of overall overseer of things that are happening. And then you can utilize AI tools, AI agents, and those are your bees. So the actual work is done by the bees. Sometimes you have to go in and tweak things a little bit, but your sort of overall mindset is that you're going from an executor to an overseer. So bee to a beekeeper.
I love that analogy. I think that idea of we were busy bees and now we're the beekeepers. That's going to stick with me. That's a sticky analogy. So the world of business, whether it's a large business or a small business like a speaking business, is starting to change. So let's dive into this. How does this affect speakers, right? Let's take a look at sort of your first tip about become more efficient. What do you mean by that? What do we need to do in a small business when it comes to, being more efficient?
Yeah. So there's so many facets of being a speaker, right? Number one, you have to figure out what the heck you're talking about. So the content generation piece is sort of one pillar, I would say. And that's something that AI can help you with. There's another part about business development. Where do you find your clients? Who is your client? What type of organizations do they belong in? And how do you use AI to find them? And how do you, I think before a couple, maybe this is even about a year ago, I would go into to these trainings where, these speaker coaches tell me, oh, this is your sort of ICP, and this is your email, this is their email, this is how you find their email, this is how you sort of, proactively go and search for them. A lot of that a year ago I was doing myself, or I would hire an assistant to do that. Now AI has taken on so much of that work already. So the business development side. And then third is sort of the marketing side of things. So now that you know what you're talking about, yeah, now that you know who you should be talking to, how do you now market yourself? So how do you attract your buyers? Are you generating social media videos and putting it out on your social media platforms? AI can help you to do that too now. Are you updating your website? Are you writing some sort of content piece, a blog, a newsletter? AI can help you to do that too. Although there are some caveats here and there with just, I guess, like more intricate tips of not outsourcing all of it to AI because then it gets very sloppy. We can talk about that too. And then the fourth would be sort of the admin side of things. So I need to get to, I don't know, like Indianapolis by May 20th, which is something that I actually have to do. What are my flights? I used to manually look at those flights, figure out what is the best time. Now I just input into AI, this is the location I need to get to. This is my actual speaking time. What's the best time that I should hit Indianapolis so that I can make things in time, get back to my family in time? And AI is sort of running a lot of that. So the fourth sort of pillar I would call sort of admin. Um, and just myself, my own business. When I started, I feel like a lot of the things I did manually, then I hired people to do it. Like I hired a PR team, I hired a social media team, I also hired like a general assistant of sorts to help with uh, sort of being almost like an air traffic controller when she's looking at my emails. And I gradually let a lot of them go. Because as AI got better and better, I just realized that AI could take on a lot of that work. So that's the operational part. And I think it lends into efficiency because now that a lot of the nitty gritty, I call that B work or I call that drudgery work. Like it's not like as a speaker, hopefully you enjoy the on stage part. Like that's irreplaceable. Like I don't think there will be one day where, but although I have seen, Sophia the robot, which is this like robot woman, she's kind of bald, and then they put her on stage, and then she did a keynote, and it's some fanfare things,
Yeah,
and
I don't
you
think
know,
many of us have to worry about our job security to Sophia the
yeah.
robot. I don't think that's gonna take it away.
Until Sophia gets better. But I don't, I mean that's a while away. But until even that, or in the meantime, speakers should spend their time on stage, and I think we should all maximize our time on a stage because that's where your talent shines. Your talent isn't shining in sending out outbound emails or in tweaking the font for a TikTok video. That's not where you're talented. Maybe it is, but probably not. Your talent is it should be on stage. And so if you're outsourcing to AI a lot of that B work, it should leave you with more time to think about how do I improve my content? How do I improve the way that I'm relaying a message, connecting with the audience? I think sometimes speakers could get really busy and things could, but we talk about flywheels a lot and how, there's feedback loops and, things get sometimes repetitive too if you're more singular with your topic. But how do you step beyond that? How do you, say you are a resilient speaker and you had your go-to 3 to 4 stories and that's worked really well for the past 10 years. How do you do a step up from that? And I think that is that piece of, I don't know, real estate or increment is what AI allows us to do because we've outsourced a lot of that drudgery work.
So there's a lot of speakers who I know who are doing exactly what you're talking about. They have dove in, they know the AI, they're outsourcing that busy bee work for operational, aspects. They're being extremely efficient. But I'm going to guess that the majority of speakers have not done it yet. So, really quick, what's a couple of little things someone could do today, right after they stop listening to this, to take on one task that could make them more efficient in running their speaker business?
I think the easy one is just looking at your website and seeing the score, the AEO score. So, for instance, now this is probably not news that a lot of bookers are searching for us through an answer engine, through a Gemini, a ChatGPT, a Claude. And so, are you showing up in those answers? Cloudflare released this tool of, is your website agent ready? So is your website willing and able to enable to a lot of AI agents to crawl your site? In technical terms, that's called answer engine optimization. There's a wealth of startups that's working on this. So I think that's something that, in the new phase of beyond bureaus, beyond coming directly to your website, when they are just having an idea to put together a event and they need a speaker and they're looking for a certain topic and they're searching, are you even showing up, or is your website being completely bypassed?
Well, and I mean, that is a really good tip. I will be totally honest. Two of the last three bookings that I got, I always ask everybody, how did you find me? Two of the three, they literally said the words, I'm embarrassed to say this, but it was through ChatGPT. And so,
I don't know
I
why
don't know
they
why
always
I
say
don't know
they're
why they were
embarrassed.
embarrassed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I
the
don't
new way of finding things.
I don't care how you find me as long as you find me was what I told both of
Exactly.
them. So
Exactly.
nice. So let's move on to that second tip, which was let's use AI to totally pressure test your content. So what do you mean by pressure test, and what are some things we can be doing?
Yeah. So, I think we often think that technology bounds us into an echo chamber of sorts, and the sycophancy that we've seen with ChatGPT 4.0 or previous models. It's like, oh, I wanna talk about resilience, and this is what I want to say. And then ChatGPT is like, wow, that is such a great idea. Yeah, do you want me to make a slide deck for you or create that into a banner? And it sort of like feeds into your own train of thought. But I think the way that we should view AI is true. If the more correct way to view it is if we truly saw it as a thinking partner. So, in an NSA, for instance, we join these mastermind things and we meet other speakers and they pressure test us. So sometimes they sit in the audience, watch us on stage, and then they give us feedback, or we're sort of doing these practice keynote things online together in a group, and they're pressure testing us. But if you were on your own, how do you use AI to pressure test your ideas? And it's as simple as inputting into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, your favorite AI tool. This is what I plan to say. This is going to be my outline. Pressure test me. Point to me the things that this is wrong, or what's a better way that I can convey this message, or fact check me too. So these are the things that I plan to say. What's actually truly correct, or if something is seemingly correct, can we dig deeper? And so I think just using AI as a thought partner, as a somebody who is smarter than you to push on your ideas, to go back and forth, or to argue with you even back and forth, instead of just spinning in its own sycophantic loop, is a privilege that we have when we use AI. But I think a lot of us are more trapped in the go with my flow kind of route, instead of, please oppose me, tell me where I'm wrong.
So what are some ways to challenge the AIs so that we are getting that pressure test?
So, when I was doing this keynote, this is a bit more technical on my side, which is I talk a lot about AI in general and the landscape of AI when it compares to China and US. And so, because so much of my previous experience was in a Chinese tech company, and all of the sort of folks that find me or book me have an affinity to that, there's always that question, who is winning this AI race? Is it China or is it the US? And how do we look at that from the lens of data and compute and algorithms? And so I have my own philosophy. There is also no sort of right answer to that question, and that's why it's such a great question to be challenged. And so I have my own research. I input it into Claude, and Claude tells me a lot of the feedback. And I tell Claude to challenge me on the answer that I have put together, and give me the factual evidence proving that Claude is right. And then I tell Claude to go on my side and look at more evidence of why I'm right. So basically, it's this exercise of going back and forth and truly digging deeper and investigating who is actually right in the end, especially when there's a to choose one type of question. But it extends beyond that. It's sort of anything where something might be obvious, and there's actually a contrarian answer. And I think as speakers, it is our job to ask the better questions to provoke thought. Like, these folks are paying hundreds to thousands of dollars to hear someone that they might not regularly listen to or have access to. And so when you put out content that are very thought provoking, that are not very obvious, that are maybe sometimes contrarian, I think the audience appreciates that. Because then it evokes sort of their own way of thinking. And just, from the echo chamber point that I had said earlier, I think it's more and more important for folks to step outside of their echo chambers, to consider things from different points of view, and then derive it and answer more holistically. And so I hope AI is something that helps us in that endeavor instead of sinking us more into a echo chamber world.
So as we move forward in this world, I mean, AI is only going to become more pervasive in our lives. I mean, I have no doubt about that. As we move forward, what are some other things that we haven't touched on yet that would be really key for a small business? Because I know you speak a lot to larger corporations and stuff, but let's take this super micro down to people in our little speaker world. What are some other things that we really need to be embracing today, especially for those people who've been kind of on the platform? They haven't gotten on the AI train all the way yet. What are some other things that they should be doing right now?
Um, they can check out my website, take my course if they want to, which I try to do a TLDR. I know everyone is busy, so usually the things that I put out, I usually like to, crunch things and give it to you so that you have an hour, you've sat down for the hour, and now you kind of are at a similar level to somebody who is sort of in this every day, all day. Um, but I think small things like the paying attention to connectors, when it comes to Claude, um, and sort of using it as a way to, not just a I think. So I saw this sort of AI ladder the other day, where, at the bottom of the ladder, it's people are using it as a glorified search engine.
Yep.
Ladder
A lot of
two
people.
is a lot of people. And then we're rewriting our emails, and then you're copy pasting, what the AI gave you, and then give it to manually sending that email still. Level two is where you're creating finished products. So whether it's a P&L, whether it's a marketing banner, whether it's a first pass at a website that you're building, that's sort of level two. There's fewer people here. And then level three is when you're using things like Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT as a one size portal that reaches into all of the other apps that you need to touch. And there's a lot of new MCP servers that a lot of these other businesses are building. And Claude, I mean, last week just turned on 200 more. So the more connectors that is being connected into Claude, the easier it is to use this system as one portal to reach all of the other sort of things. So now I truly don't really touch Canva anymore, or my invoice system, or sometimes united.com. I'm just using Claude as the general sort of one leeway into everything because of the amount of connectors there are. And so that's sort of level three. I think level four is more on the enterprisey side of, there's a lot of legacy systems within enterprises and they are also building their own connectors too. And then level five is when it's truly very autonomous. Some say we've already gone there. Some say that, it's still a work in progress. But I think as we look at businesses in general, probably will become more and more autonomous if you let it. There's always that saying, the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. I completely believe in that. There is a large gap between those who are sort of building that autonomous organization versus those who are sort of using ChatGPT as a glorified search engine.
Nice. Well, Sharon, it's been a pleasure having you on Speakernomics. Any final words?
Feel free to find me on Instagram. I'm SharonG.ai. Funnily enough, AI is in my last name. I didn't change that in 2022. I was born with it. So some could say that I was born to do this. Yeah, feel free to find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. And I'd be happy to help anybody out with their questions about their business and using AI.
Nice. Well, again, thank you very much for being here. And thank you to everybody who tuned in and listened to Speakernomics. Make sure that you subscribe to this podcast and share it with all of your speaker friends, because NSA brings you this podcast and countless other programming so that we can help you build a better business and be a better speaker, while at the same time building the most important community in the speaker world. So we'll see you back here next week on Speakernomics.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Speakernomics. If you want more bookings, credibility, and connections, your NSA community is waiting for you. Join NSA today. Click the link below and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and download this podcast wherever you listen.